It is one of the harshest, most unforgiving places on Earth. But in 1849, a group of desperate gold seekers found themselves trapped in it and barely made it out alive. When they finally escaped, they gave it a name that still echoes today: Death Valley. In 1849, America was gripped by gold fever. From every corner of the country, men, women, and families set out for California, chasing dreams of wealth. Many wagon trains, especially those coming from the east, arrived in Salt Lake City, Utah, late in the fall of 1849. But by that time, it was already too late in the season to safely cross the High Sierra passes. The forthcoming winter snows would make them impassable. The Donner Party tragedy of 1846–47, where pioneers were trapped by snow in the Sierra Nevada and resorted to cannibalism, was a fresh and terrifying memory. But waiting out the winter in Salt Lake City meant being stranded for months and posed its own risks. In 1849, Salt Lake City was still a new and struggling settlement. Any travelers staying throughout the winter would have to contend with significant food and shelter shortages. A group of about 100 wagons, led by a Mormon named Captain Jefferson Hunt, was planning to take the safer, established Old Spanish Trail around the southern end of the Sierra Nevada. This was the safest route around the mountain chain during this time of year. However, a rumor quickly spread among the travelers of the existence of a shortcut to the goldfields, which would supposedly save them hundreds of miles. This shortcut, however, was based on a crudely drawn map, possibly from earlier explorations, that was largely unproven for wagon trains. But many of the pioneers, eager to reach California quickly, decided to take this route, despite Captain Hunt's warnings. This group, later known as the Lost 49ers, broke away from Hunt's main wagon train near what is now Enterprise, Utah, in early November 1849. This breakout expedition was not one cohesive group. Instead, it consisted of smaller factions, with the most prominent being the Jayhawkers, who were mostly young, unmarried men from Illinois. The Bennett Arcan Party, which mostly consisted of families with women and children, including the families of Asahel Bennett and John Arcan. Two other pioneers, William Lewis Manley and John Rogers, were also part of this group. And the Breyer family, which consisted of Reverend James Welsh Breyer, his wife Juliet, and their 3 small children. What followed was a descent into misery. The shortcut wasn't short. It was a labyrinth of dry canyons, rocky passes, and salt basins. Water vanished, oxen collapsed, and wagons cracked apart. By Christmas Eve, the Lost 49ers were stranded in a barren valley that hadn't yet been named, a lifeless basin surrounded by impassable mountains. The Jayhawkers, desperate and out of options, burned their wagons for firewood, giving a name to what is now Burned Wagons Camp. They slaughtered their oxen, dried the meat, and set off on foot toward Town Pass. The Bennett Arcan Party attempted to cross the Panamint Range in their wagons, but had to retreat to the basin floor. They knew they wouldn't survive much longer without help. The 2 young men in their party, William Lewis Manley and John Rogers, volunteered for the impossible, to get help on foot. The men walked an incredible distance, over 300 miles, through the Mojave Desert. Enduring extreme thirst and exhaustion, they finally reached a ranch near present-day Valencia, California, on January 1st, 1850. Knowing the desperate situation they had left behind, the men did not rest. They replenished their supplies, acquired 3 horses and a mule, and started back into the desert. It took them nearly a month to return, and when they arrived at the old camp, they were greeted with silence. Fearing the families had perished, Manley fired his rifle in hopes that someone was left to hear it. And miraculously, families began spilling out of the wagons, most notably Sarah Bennett, who exclaimed, "The boys are here! The boys are here!" With new supplies and their rescuers by their side, the families slowly began their exodus. It took days to climb the mountains. As they crested the final ridge, one of them turned back to look at the desolate land they'd barely escaped, and uttered the words, "Goodbye, Death Valley." With that, the name stuck, and the legend was born. Most of the Lost 49ers didn't find gold, but they managed to survive one of the most brutal tests imaginable. Their story, particularly the heroism of Manley and Rogers, became a testament to human endurance and the harsh realities of the American West. As for the Jayhawkers, the decision to shed all possessions and leave on foot may have saved their lives, as they were able to travel quickly through the unforgiving terrain. While they endured immense suffering and hardship, the core group of Jayhawkers, including the Breyer family, successfully made it out of the valley and eventually reached settlements in California. William Manley would go on to write a book, Death Valley in '49, a vivid account that preserves this chapter of American history. Today, their story lives on in Death Valley National Park, a name given by these pioneers, a name born not from conquest, but from suffering.